Hello, BookTube. Sorry for the late upload, but I only just recently remembered that I need to correct a mistake that I made yesterday in one of my barrage of videos yesterday. One of the videos that I made was about an upcoming event that I called August Amour, created by the Bookish Bryants, designed to celebrate romance novels. And I showed you a whole bunch of books that I would plan on reading in the romance umbrella in August. And the problem with that is that no such event exists. It's becoming increasingly clear why I am not invited to many of these events, because I can't even get them straight. It's Autumn Amour. It's not August Amour. It's not an August event. It's a September event. It's Autumn Amour. As one of its hosts, I really ought to have known that. So I thought about that and thought, well, that is definitely true. And that is why you're not seeing any other announcement videos. And if that's true, then by the time that event rolls around, all the books that I mentioned yesterday I will have read already. They're all August releases. I'll be on to September. It's September. So I thought I would make a correction, and then I thought, well, that's a perfect opportunity to talk about September releases in the romance area, isn't it? Since my goal is going to be the same in any case, which is to read a huge percentage of the new releases, self-published and traditionally published, in the 15 or 16 genres that I love. That is my goal in any month, for any genre. So it definitely applies for September. So in addition to correcting myself, it is Autumn Amour. It is a September event, not an August event. I thought I would go through another TBR, the one that I'll be using, part of what I'll be using for September. But a little bit later in the day, a little bit more of a dodgy light scenario, but I'm hoping that we can still do this. Because I don't want to let another day go by with the information wrong on my own channel. So the first one we're going to do is wholesome. One of the things that fits under the huge romance umbrella is wholesome novels. Authors who have carved out an entire area of giving you wholesome, generally hanky-panky free light romances in which you are guaranteed likable characters, you are guaranteed a happy ending. And Rayanne Thane is one of those authors. She's really good. And this is her upcoming book, All is Bright, which I almost feel like I need to give a clarification for the cover. The cover shows a scarf, ice skates, ice, and snow. And in very little time, such a cover will be unthinkable, first of all, and will also need an explanation for people born in this century. All of those things used to be steady appurtenances of the season known as winter. We did not have a hard frost in New England this winter. We did not. We barely had any snow, enough so that you could fit it on a lawn and not worry about it. You could walk through it. In southern New England, anyway, we didn't have anything like ice that you could skate on. It wasn't anything like that in the season traditionally known as winter that we had last year, and there won't be anything even close to it in this coming winter. But nevertheless, this will be a Rayanne Thane, I'm sure, right up her alley. It will be full of wholesome stuff, nice people, a little bit of nostalgia, and pretty effectively done. She's pretty good at conveying the emotions of her characters. Then this next one is by Sarah Echevarria Smith. It's a contemporary romance, and it's a bookish romance. Those are gaining traction, and I'm always happy to see that. It has one thing I'm not happy to see. We're going to see more of it. You can't help but see it. This is The Boy with the Bookstore. And there is the male main character with a stack of books holding a book, and the female main character has oven mittens, a tray, and a bunch of freshly baked goodies. I am assuming that this means that the boy owns the bookstore and is going to open a cafe or bakery, or maybe there's one next door, and that will bring him in proximity with the woman with whom he will fall in love. I don't have any objection to any of that. It's a little bit on the programmatic side, but I don't think I've ever read this author. The thing that bothers me is the cover. These vague, notice there are no lines. There are no outside lines. There are no outline lines. You can't see the line of his leg. It's delineated just by the color of his jeans. You can't see the line of their faces. They're delineated just by the color. These bland, boring cartoon covers now occur. There are roughly 350 of them every month. almost every romance in almost every subcategory comes out with a cover virtually identical to this. And I hate fads like that of any kind, whether it was 6 years ago and it was the girl with, or whatever it is. I hate fads in publishing like this when they take this kind of tsunami size. And these boring cartoon covers with no outlines have completely taken over the genre. I cannot wait to see the back of them. I will cover the cover of this thing while I'm reading it in order for the cover not to bleed over and irritate me in the reading of the book, which could be adorable. Then we have a Regency. I mentioned yesterday in my Mistaken video that I love Regency romances. This is by Julia London, who's an extremely known quantity for me. And this is The Duke Not Taken. This is a royal match novel. Standard Regency cover. They are both fully clothed. They are not mauling each other, and there's nice scenery. There's a nice image. The light is a little dodgy here, but I think you could still make it out. You've got the faint hint of sunset in the background, the endless English twilight. Like I mentioned yesterday, and like Sarah at The Bookish Knitter has mentioned endlessly, the romance umbrella covers everything, including standard historicals like this one, which is the kind of romance that introduced me to the whole genre, and that I love. I dearly love, as a first love. Then we'll go back to Wholesome, and this is the author who wrote the book on Wholesome. You cannot go wrong with Debbie Macomber. You simply can't. And this is Married in Texas, which I believe is 2 novellas in one novel. There you have boots and a bouquet on an old-fashioned wooden swing, the barn in the background, all that sort of stuff. There is tension in this author's novels. There is sometimes a little bit of passing heartache, but it is mainly meant to be comfort food. It is mainly meant to be enjoyable. And sometimes you can use that. Very much so. Then we have, the next one is by Robin Carr, who's also a very well-known quantity for me. All these are coming out in September. And another thing that I mentioned yesterday, another thing that falls under the categories of romances, are romances that are very much governed by location. So you have an alpine lodge, or a village in Colorado, or a seaside resort of some kind, or a beach house. And it's that location that becomes the lodestar around which all of the romantic subplots and plots happen. And Robin Carr has one of those, her Virgin River books. And this is Return to Virgin River, which comes out in September. It's the next one in the series. I've read a few of her books and really like them. There's an ad on the front here for a Netflix original series called Virgin River. I don't know if... I haven't seen that. I have Netflix. I never look at it. I really should. I have no idea what that does or doesn't do and what connection it has to Return to Virgin River. And then we have a Harlequin special edition. Harlequin romances have been coming out forever, and they have several categories that they do. Harlequin Intrigue, Special Editions, The Normal Harlequin Presents, The Normal Harlequin Romance. And as I've mentioned a few times on this channel, romances, just in general, tend to be characterized by people who have not read them, just across the board, as trash. And even people who have read romances and might say that they're open-minded, that tend to classify category romances as trash. There's probably no more despised a kind of book that is still in active publication than category romances. Now, the reason they're still in active publication is because they are beloved. And there's a good reason for that. But it took me a while to try these things out with an open mind, and I have found that some of them I really, really like. They are, of course, very corseted. They have a very strict sort of page count, for instance. If you're writing a Harlequin romance, if you're on a contract to write a Harlequin romance, and you turn in a manuscript that's 600 pages long, it will be turned right back to you, to fix, to trim. And also there are category guidelines for each of the categories in terms of how much hanky-panky is involved, how much gore is involved, how much psychological terror is involved, that sort of thing. And as you might expect from having those kinds of guidelines, some are in need of updating. And one of the ones that was badly in need of updating for Harlequin romances, for category romances, was gay romance, which took forever and ever to headline a book on its own. Sure, there might be a wacky uncle in a book here or there, or an unattached young man who you were supposed to read between the lines, but just two, men protagonists, two female protagonists, That's taken a while to do. Harlequin Special Editions just recently did that. I think they started last year. Uh, and the first entry in that list was kind of charming. I read it, and I didn't think it was pandering or dumb at all. And they've kept going with it. They're keeping going with it, which is very nice. This is by Roan Parrish, and it is The Rivals of Casper Road. Harlequin Special Edition that is a gay romance. It's Halloween themed, as you can tell. And these things are, the Harlequin Special Editions tend to have very low stakes. The conclusion in terms of whether or not anybody will be happy and how is usually telegraphed pretty early on. You are reading these things because you want to read a book that you enjoy and smile over, not something that you want to be challenged by or kept in suspense by. And that's what this will be. There's no chance whatsoever that the two men introduced at the beginning of this book won't end up with each other and won't end up blissfully happy. That's just sort of thing you have to go with. It's a construction of Harlequin Special Edition. Then this next one is by Tricia Mesmer. I believe it's self-published or subsidy published. I don't think this is a mainstream publisher. This is Saving Miss Pratt, and I think it is an absolutely old-fashioned Regency romance, as close to old-fashioned as you're going to get, where it's buttoned down, where there isn't much in the way of hanky-panky. Keeping in mind what I said yesterday, again, I won't be that guy, but what you're seeing on the cover would have been too much. Much too much for the actual Regency period. It's all right. We have to make allowances for that, and I will definitely do that if an author has, for instance, done the research. If this reads like a good old-fashioned Regency romance, even if it doesn't read like the Regency. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this author. I might never have read her before, but I'll definitely give Saving Miss Pratt a try. Then we have an author I definitely have read. I've read this author many, many times. She cannot disappoint. She writes contemporary cowboy romances, and it's B.J. Daniels, and this is the new one, Under a Killer Moon. And this comes out in September. And there you have a photo cover. There's no woman on the cover. That's a little bit unusual. There's just the cowboy. We don't really see his face. This is obviously a daytime shot that's been filtered to look like moonlight. I don't know anything about it, and I also don't know. It says Buckhorn, Montana. I don't know if that means that this is part of a series, and maybe I've read others. But B.J. Daniels has such a snappy ear for dialogue and is really good at pacing that I wouldn't miss a book anyway, even if I haven't read the other books in the series. Then we have something I've mentioned before on this channel. J.R. Ward writes the Black Dagger Brotherhood and a couple of Black Dagger spin-offs that are all about super sexy, super violent, super aggressive, super alpha, immortal warrior vampires. I believe it or not the only romance author who does that. The Black Dagger Brotherhood is just so enjoyable. I am invested in the series completely. I've been reading it from the beginning. This is the Black Dagger Brotherhood Prison Camp. I don't think this is the first one in the series. I think I've read at least one other Black Dagger Brotherhood Prison Camp book. This is The Viper, and of course, the fact that it's a new J.R. Ward interested me right away. I can't think of anything else that would draw me to this book. It's beyond me. These are gritty and full of raunchy kind of humor. They are very much different from the kind of button-down romances that we've seen a few of, but I'm invested in the series. I love a good supernatural romance. And then the next one is by Sarah Adams. It's a bakery series. It's probably transplanted. Someone goes to Rome and loses their heart there. Those are all standard. And another thing, as I mentioned, that is unfortunately standard are these boring cartoon covers. There are no outlines on the humans. There are no lines to delineate where the arms or the clothing or the face or the hair ends. It's only the color that delineates where those things end and where something else starts. And this is everything. This is absolutely everything. This is 350 books a month that look like this. Which might be great. If this is one cover artist who's doing this, then that cover artist is now on Easy Street. But I want it to stop. I really, really do. Could have made this whole TBR, these covers, just in September, with 300 more that came out in August. We'll see. It's contemporary. I'll gladly do it, but it's a little bit on the reluctant side because of the covers. I am just shallow enough. I will try to pay attention to anything else. But then we have a standard Regency romance. This is by Lenora Bell. I love Lenora Bell. I have a few of those books. I'll get this in hardcover. In mass market paperback. And this is Wallflowers versus Rogues, and this is Duke Most Wicked. And again, we have the standard modern Regency design, where he has no clothes on. He has no shirt on. There's a piano in the background. There's an appealing red kind of overcast to the whole thing, but this is very much, this is when you know that you're dealing with a contemporary romance, contemporary Regency thing, where the two characters will passionately kiss at the very least within the first 10 pages. And probably have some sort of explicit sexual encounter long before the end of the book, long before they even know what they feel about each other. It's just the way of it. I honestly, I would rather that Regency romances adapted and stayed by doing this sort of thing, which is totally ahistorical, totally anachronistic to the period, than vanish completely. I would miss them if they were gone. And Lenora Bell does a really good job with her characters, especially good at the sparks that fly between natural opposites. That's always a lot of fun. And then the last one here is Ophelia Sexton. Was not an author that I know. This is the first book in a series called Snowberry Springs Ranch, so it could be another location-based story. But it's definitely also a contemporary cowboy story. And I know that the cowboy in question is not only contemporary, but yummy. He's yummy. And he's on one knee with no shirt on in the middle of a field with her on his knee sitting there. That would be very uncomfortable, just very uncomfortable for both of them. I don't understand the ergonomics of this cover. Also, I don't know why she is staring lovingly at his cheek and he is looking at the bluebirds above her right ear. He's not looking even at her head. So again, we have a cover that's confusing me. I promise, I will get past the cover. I consider more than just covers when I read these things. And I couldn't pass up a title called Yummy Cowboy, now could I? And that's it. That is not it. Those are not all the romances that I will be reading in September, which is the actual month for Autumn Amour. Those are not all of the romances. I'll probably be getting romances in the mail that aren't any of those. But those are some of the ones that I will be reading for that month. So, and once again, just by assembling titles for a potential partial TBR, you get to see how many things are covered under the romance umbrella, which is wonderful. It's one of the reasons I love the genre. So I wanted to make sure I made this video before another day went by with my previous videos sitting there just being wrong. This is Autumn Amour is a September event. It is not an August event. So you now have 2 months of forthcoming romances to ponder and maybe put on your wish list. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up before I lose the light completely. I will upload it, and that will be that. Mea culpa. And I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.